After having generated $10+ million for direct-to-consumer businesses, here are some of the 5 most essential life lessons that I've been able to extract and translate from the business world into my own personal life. Number 1, I do things for a completely different reason than I consciously think I do. What the heck does that mean? At the agency I worked at, and even the agency before that, I had worked in specifically direct response marketing and advertising. When I first started advertising, I would just advertise the product and I would say it's $25 and it's blue, very bland, very basic. Those type of advertisements didn't work. It just kind of fell flat and wasted a lot of money. As the years went on, I slowly just did lots of research and read more books to try to deeply understand what type of advertisement, what type of messaging, what type of words can I put out there that would help nudge someone into converting and buying product. And as I went down this rabbit hole, it started to freak me out a little bit because I started to get out of the realm of word tricks, hacks, tactics, things you could kind of say to persuade someone, into more fundamental, scientific, psychological research papers and books I thought I was going to get myself into. And essentially all of that started boiling down to this idea of behavioral psychology. There's this book, I highly recommend it. It's called Marketing to Mind States. It's all about behavioral psychology, but even further below the surface of behavioral psychology is going from marketing to someone's conscious mind to their subconscious mind. As I was researching more and more of this, what started to click was that all of the decisions that we're making on a day-to-day that change our behavior pretty much almost entirely subconscious. 95+% of your decision making is emotional, and emotions are almost 100% subconscious or unconscious. And so when I started to advertise, I was no longer advertising to somebody to buy a specific product because it had the right price or it was this right color. I was marketing to someone's subconscious. You can target someone's inner beliefs, conversation that's already playing in their head, the desires that they already currently have. You've tapped into something a lot more powerful than any amount of education or good pricing can ever do. There's a reason people buy Apple products that are $3,000+ instead of a different product that might have better specs, that might be half the price, but it's not Apple. I'm not gonna get into the conversation of branding. There's a whole lot more that goes down there, but the essence of what I'm trying to get at, real marketing, real advertising goes after your subconscious. And if you're not a marketer, one thing I do wanna say on that off to the side really quick is that it sounds like trickery, manipulation, just basically trying to trick someone into buying a product they may not need. If you're pushing a great product that you actually believe will help someone and you market to them in a way that is pro them, that is good. There's this quote, I'll have to find it, but it basically just says, advertising isn't evil. Evil advertising is evil. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And so to get off of that sidetrack of the ethics behind this, it is real. It's not something that is a marketer's trick. All of us all day long are making decisions based on our previous experiences and the emotional response to things that our subconscious is making that is making us act a certain kind of way. For example, if I go shopping for a brown shirt and I find this one and I try it on, and I'm with my friends and they're like, oh yeah, it fits good, it looks good, and I buy that t-shirt. It wasn't the fact that it was a brown t-shirt. It wasn't the fact that it was my friends telling me to buy it. There's so many underlying deep things that are happening. The first thing could have been a cautious sense of belonging. Whenever my friends are wanting me to buy this shirt because they like it, I might be more inclined to buy this shirt just because I want to make sure that I fit in with this group, and there's something that they're saying that's telling me that I will fit in even more and it will be good for them to know that I have done such a thing. That's one of the underlying messages that may be at play that's impacting my decision to buy the shirt. Another is if there were messaging on the shirt and it was a type of messaging that I wanted to associate myself with or a brand that I identified heavily with, then not only do my friends want me to buy this shirt, but I also am deeply wanting them to see me being associated with this brand or this type of messaging because it's something that I believe in. But there are so many underlying things that are impacting our decision making. Behavioral change is great, but it doesn't last. And you can form those behaviors into habits, but there's something underlying, there's something deeper within that thing that you're trying to change or that you want to do, that is the root that would actually make that change come about, that behavioral change happen. So for me, if I want to stop eating ice cream, I have a big sweet tooth. And so I would eat ice cream because I don't always get a bunch of sweets during the day. I work really hard. I try to keep myself disciplined. When I'm eating ice cream, there's a sense of cautious autonomy. I want to make sure that I'm in control of the pleasure that I'm receiving, because I withhold myself from that from a delayed gratification standpoint. But on the short term, I want to make sure that I am getting a nice sweet treat. And so if I just try to put the ice cream away, then it's like whack-a-mole. As soon as you hit one down, something else is going to pop up. If I were to then switch that to drinking soft drinks, I would knock that down, I would get rid of all the soft drinks, something else would pop up. And it would happen again and again and again. What it's done for me is really deeply realize that the way to be disciplined and the way to change things in the way that I want them to happen, there's a deeper emotional logic at play that I cannot ignore, because it makes up 95+% the decisions that I make. And so to ignore that would be to only do surface level symptom solving. It's like putting a band-aid on a bullet hole. It doesn't work. That's something that has been very interesting to me. I highly recommend, take some time, it might freak you out, but just look up subconscious behavioral psychology, or you can even look up more on the consumer side, behavioral psychology or behavioral economics. It really deeply explains the human condition when it comes to the behaviors and some of the decisions that we make on a second-by-second basis. It's enabled me to understand exactly why I do what I do. For the most part, there's only so much I could go back into my subconscious and figure it out. And also when interacting with other people may be in a really tough spot. You don't know what they're going through, and they may act up, they may do something crazy, they may do something out of the ordinary, but being able to see what's going on behind the scenes, what is impacting their day, how are they hurting, are they super excited right now, are they having a bad day, whatever it may be, there's a deeper level of compassion that I found that I can help offer to others, because I can see that there might be something else on a deeper level going on that I can't see, that I need to extend that grace to them, as I hope that I can extend that grace to myself as well, because we're not perfect. So that's the first thing, is that there's just so many factors happening that's not just this conscious, rational, logical Bradley. Pretty much all decision making is emotional. So trying to really feel those emotions and figure out what's going on is the deeper, better way to make a change. Number 2 is that problem solving is more problem, less solving. Everybody has a freaking solution to your problem, and they're all crap, especially in the business realm. Everybody has a solution. When there's a problem or there's something not going right that's losing tons of money, I'm not necessarily talking about missed opportunities. I'm talking about actual problems, things that are of concern, that are losing money, time, whatever it may be. Everyone thinks they know how to implement this one simple, easy trick that nobody else thought about that would solve it and make it all perfect. But in reality, if you were to just throw something at it, so problem solving in these fast-paced, high-impact scenarios don't need to be treated with these lofty, super-duper quick, oh, let's just try this. I'm not speaking about not being able to make decisions fast. When there's something that's repetitive or constantly recurring in business or in personal life, just trying to throw a solution at something usually never works, because A, a lack of a solution is never the problem. And then B is that people I found, including myself, didn't know the exact problem that they were trying to solve. Like, what specifically is it that we're solving? And if you try this in your own life and you've got problems in business or whatever, and you have 5 or 10 different people working on one solution, even 2 or 3, you're trying to go to solve something, you're just trying to add solution. What would patch this problem? What would fix it? The problem is you may not have the clearest idea on exactly what the heck you're solving, because if you did, it starts to become a lot more obvious. And I found this out myself, where for years I just tried to patch things up, solve things, throw some more stuff at it. Oh, we're missing this, let's throw this, whatever it is. And one of the best examples I can give you on this happens all the time, you've probably experienced this as well, is when you or somebody else in your family is sick. As soon as you start telling people that you've got the sniffles, you've got a cough, oh my gosh, I bet the weather's throwing your immune system for a loop. Oh, Johnny over there was sick last week, you probably caught that from him. Your head hurts? You should just probably take an Advil. You have looked tired, you should probably take a nap. And the list just goes on and on and on and on, because people are trying with good intention to try to offer up a solution that would help eliminate your pain. Sounds nice. Problem that happens is that they don't know what they're solving. And even for myself, sometimes if I've got a bad headache, I'm like, oh, or my neck hurts. It's like, okay, I'll just take an Advil. When the actual specific problem might be that I've been leaning over looking at my computer screen too hunched over for a week straight. That would start hurting my neck, which is starting to give me a headache. The lack of an anti-inflammatory is not the problem as to why the back of my head is inflamed. It's inflamed because of my posture that week. Or to go even further, maybe it's that I've been traveling all week and I haven't had my monitor, so I've had to lean over. Or whatever the deeper root cause might be, I think you can start to see here where we go from, I should take an Advil, to maybe the solution is I need to buy a portable monitor, or my chair is messing with my posture a ton. Or I actually just need to be disciplined to try to keep an upright position when I'm working on my computer. Whatever the solution may be to this maybe real, maybe theoretical scenario of my neck being inflamed that's giving me headaches, I think that you can see the point I'm trying to make here. Problem solving is more problem and less solving. There's this book, I haven't finished it, so I can't vouch for it, but I read the first few chapters. It's called Managing to Learn, and it is one of the most frustrating books I've ever read in my life. It's about this guy who is working at a manufacturing plant, and his coach, his boss, tells him to go work on one of these big problems they're having at opening up a new manufacturing plant. And as he goes along, I won't spoil it because I don't even know the end of it, but as he goes along, he finds these solutions, these things that he just knows is going to work and that he wants to implement and he's fired up about. And the coach says, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? Why would that work? Are you absolutely certain that this is the thing that when implemented would actually make the real change and difference? And he keeps coming back time and time again saying, no. And then he goes back to the drawing board and he goes and talks to more people, really tries to identify exactly what the problem is. It uses this framework called A3 problem solving. That's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself. I'm not gonna go down that road. But if you're fascinated and you really deeply wanna understand problem solving better, go read that book, or the first few chapters at least. Look into A3 problem solving. Or if you just want to take a pen and paper out right now, if you've got a business problem or a personal problem, write down what you think the problem is, the presenting problem. And what you can do from there is suss out, is to become a detective, is to really seek out exactly, I'm talking like down to the atoms moving. What exactly is the problem here? Because then once you're able to figure that one out, and question everything involved, you can have a much clearer picture of what the problems are and how to, here's the kicker, you don't ever solve anything. You don't ever fix something. You offer up experiments to try. And so if someone is a problem solver and they're constantly saving the day, first of all, why are those problems there that were so easily fixed? Why were those problems there in the first place that could have been so easily fixed by this one person? Maybe they're not a superhero. Maybe they're lagging behind and just coming in to save the day when it's convenient for them. Maybe they're not actually doing their work. They could have just done it sooner. And so within experimenting, it's so much more impersonal, which is actually a good thing, specifically in business. I would argue even in life, where you don't have to make something so personal. It can just be something that might actually just need to get fixed on a material level. And so with experiments, the freeing concept of experimenting is that you're putting forth this idea that, hey, I don't know what will solve this, but I do know the problem incredibly well. I know what our target state is. I know the gap between the exact problem and the exact target that we're after. Now, based on that gap of knowing clearly defined gap of what the problem is and having a very clear path on what it looks like, we can then start offering up experiments to test that will help move everything in the right direction. As opposed to, oh, I've got to solve, and then we try it, we spend a bunch of money, and if it doesn't work, it's on you. Versus getting everyone involved, and you're gonna be able to get a much better list of experiments from everybody versus it's on one person and they're gonna solve it all. It's like, let's look at this in a broad way and see how we can test things to move the needle, the exact thing that needs to be moved or changed or eliminated. That's it with problem solving. I'm a huge fan of problem solving, or problem troubleshooting rather, is that it's not about the solution. No one's ever solving anything. They're testing things that may or may not help get closer to the target state. All right, number 3, applying basic math to your life will take you very far. The concept of profit is that if you make $10 and then you spend less than that and you are left with a surplus, you make money. It's the most simple, not easy, but simple idea that there is in business and in personal finance. And you would be shocked to find out how frequently this gets missed and how unimportant it is to people's bottom line, and how unimportant people treat this essential, fundamental concept in business and in personal finance, because there's so many other complexities that we get ourselves into. I'm gonna repeat this again because after working with dozens of businesses and business owners who are trying to scale, one of the core things that just gets lost in all of that and all the advertising and all the marketing is this idea of we spend X amount, we make X amount, and we have a net profit left over after taxes. It's just so simple. But I've found that people aren't dumb and just overlooking this concept purely. My own personal finance, every time I've missed my own profit targets with my family's finances, it's not because I was just being dumb, being like, oh, I thought 2 minus 4 equaled positive 8. It's that there's and this is important, and this is the most valuable piece of it that I've taken away, is that it's less about forgetting basic math, and it's more about recognizing and keeping track of those numbers that keeps you consciously aware of where things are at, so that you logically make the obvious choice of positive money versus negative money. There's a lot of different concepts out there on how people have been able to keep track of this, but one of the biggest ones, specifically on personal finance, is just checking your bank account. I know Alex Hormozy talks about this a lot, but being able to just look into your bank account and see how much money is coming in and how much money is going out will give you a very, very clear picture of the actual dollar amount down to the penny of what you're making or losing. And so in the business world, I saw brands that were doing multi-6 figures a year, sometimes even doing 7 figures plus in a given year of revenue. When it came down to their profit, they did not have a financial awareness or even have someone hired to work on their finances that would let them know how much they were making or not making. And it just blew me away that it wasn't that they were being stupid and just being like, oh, well, I prefer no profit over profit. Most people don't do that. What it was that there was a lack of understanding of what was happening. So that was the biggest golden nugget that I took away from it, which was that even with brands that were scaling or brands that weren't doing so well, it really was about just keeping track of how much is coming in, how much is going out. It seems rather simple, and it is simple, but it's about making sure that there's an awareness to it, financial awareness. And so this is not gonna be a long point, but it is something I really wanted to include in here because I just think that you would be shocked at how much sometimes dollars, thousands of dollars, will just slip through the cracks, or our marketing strategy will be fundamentally different because of the actual numbers, not the theoretical what I think it is, of the actual numbers that are happening. And I think this goes right back up into the problem solving, which is knowing exactly what the problems are, especially in business. If the problem is that you're losing money, knowing exactly down to where the dollar is going, exactly where you're losing money, and then trying to offer up experiments and ideas on how to fix that. Until you've got that awareness, the basic math flees you. It's not because you don't know basic math. It's not because I didn't know basic math or my clients didn't know basic math. We were all doing things at a high level. It's just that it just became unimportant sometimes and it slipped through the cracks. And yeah, something that I found that was super helpful for me is just applying that basic math to my personal finance and into business and just making the numbers work, an unfair advantage that you will have if you are consistently being aware of them and applying it. So, yeah. Number 4, success comes to those who put their egos aside. It is frustrating and it is awful to watch when someone's ego is getting in the way of their company's success and being able to get on the other side of the problems that they face because they just believe in their heart of hearts, based on their own level of competency, that they can somehow solve it with their messianic superpower abilities. And it never works out. I have seen people lose multi-5 and multi-6 figures just because that they wanted to do it a certain kind of way that wasn't some long-term advantage, that wasn't some long-term thing. It just was poor decision making because they didn't want to listen to the advice of other people, and they thought that they could do it themselves better, that they could reinvent the wheel all of a sudden by their own power and get it done. This has nothing to do with innovation. This has nothing to do with people changing the way things are done. It has everything to do with the unimportant things that don't need to be innovated or reinvented that have lost people so much money, that I've personally seen firsthand. And so that's what happens to the people that are putting their egos first. They're focused on the way that they can do the thing and not being curious, not seeking out other people's advice, not partnering with the right, I almost gave a very specific example. I won't dox that, but not partnering with the right people, not doing any of that would actually help them succeed. They're so tied to the how. On the other hand, I have seen people who in a very, very quick period of time scaled their business up from 5 figures in a month to hitting their first 7-figure month because they were not tied to the how, and they were more focused on the thing succeeding and winning and being profitable than how it would look for them to win and to appear to others. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons I found from this, which is don't be so tied to the how of the way it's going to work or not work, because when you're prideful about doing things a certain kind of way and it's not working, or even if it is working, you get stuck in this is the way we've always done things mentality, or even worse, this is the way I've always done this. Even if other people disagree or whatever, that has led to the downfall of several companies. And I've even watched just a company lose multiple 6 figures because somebody just wanted to do it a certain kind of way, and they lost multiple 6 figures of other people's money, which was so hard to watch, but it was a very valuable lesson, if nothing else. And so not being tied to the how. And I also think another thing that comes from this is realizing that entropy exists. This idea that everything is constantly changing and falling apart all the freaking time. And so whenever someone has their ego first, they can avoid looking at all of these bad problems and these things that just don't exist in my mind. And it just produces this sense of, oh my gosh, that's not healthy. A, from a personal level, and B, from a business, it just isn't gonna work. But I've seen other people who are tied to the success of the company, not to how they felt it was gonna work out. And they did the thing that actually needed to be done, the impersonal things, the impersonal atoms that had to be moved logistically, financially, whatever, to get the job done. And they would show up to these calls with black underneath their eyes because they were just gunning it all day long, and they were getting the job done. Obviously, that's not a long-term solution health-wise. I'm not condoning that aggressive level of hustle and grind. I think it gets to the point of that person ended up succeeding very well, and the other person who put their egos first lost. They probably lost the same amount of money that this person ended up profiting. It's fascinating to watch those curves go down versus up. And so personally for me, that left me with seeing a few different options when it comes to hard things or difficult problems. Is I could complain about it. I could be upset that it's not happening the way that I want it to happen. And there's a time and a place for being frustrated and upset. But at the end of the day, if you want the thing to work, there has to be this riddance of the way that I think it should work. Because if the way I think it should work isn't working out right now, it doesn't say anything about me, but I might be putting myself too deep into this process and being too prideful about it, being too stubborn about it, that I'm ignoring basic principles and core fundamentals that really would actually help move things forward, and not just being like, oh, it's the best thing, it's the right product, it's the most superior product in the market. The customer should tell you that. If you've got a bunch of 5-star reviews, sorry, I'm ranting about a personal story that I encountered, but if your product has 2-star reviews constantly and it doesn't sell profitably, you have to lose money in order to make a sale, and it's new to market, maybe you don't necessarily have a marketing problem. You may have a problem that your product isn't as good and that you need to talk to your customers, because they're the ones who have all the revenue you ever want in their pockets. A little bit of a self-rant, but it's just such an important thing to mention, which is that don't be so tied to the how. Don't be so personal about impersonal things that are happening, impersonal processes and systems. If you really want the thing to happen and you're not so focused on your pride and the success and the accolades that you will get, then you might actually succeed, because you're not tied to the how. Your personality is not tied to the how. You're tied to the final outcome. Not even the inputs or the outputs, but the outcome. And those people I have seen succeed time and time and time again. The fifth thing is mess around and find out. I know that there is another way to phrase that. I'm not gonna phrase it that way, but I'm continuing to learn, one of the most important things that can be done personally and in the business world is just tinkering around, experimenting with different things, and just seeing what happens. If we already knew what was gonna happen whenever we did something, then we would do the right thing. But the problem is that with these complex businesses, with the complex lives that we all live, there's not always an obvious, clear, direct solution that we should implement that would fix everything perfectly. And so what we're left with is not this fairy tale land of where everything works out perfectly. We're left with reality. And within the reality that we live in, we gotta try some stuff. And so I'll give an example of when I was running this one brand that scaled up very nicely. There was this one bestseller product that was selling like hotcakes. And I was trying to figure out, how can we help scale this brand? How do we put more advertising dollars behind their products, make them more profit, yippee. And as I went along, I started to notice that a lot of consumers were buying 2 of the same product without any sort of special deal or offer. They were just constantly buying 2 of this one thing. And so I thought, let's try a 2-for-1 deal. Essentially, they would buy 2 products for just slightly more than the original price of just one. And we created advertisements and we set it live. And I remember I told my media buyer that day, I was like, hey, just check on it. If it starts working, add some more budget to it, but keep an eye on it. Around lunchtime, I was just sitting on my computer looking through some metrics, and they sent me a message and said, hey, I just increased the budget $5,000 today. And I freaked out. I was like, whoa, no, don't do that. Not good, not helpful. And she said, no, this is working really well. And I was like, yeah, I'll take a look at it. And I looked at it, and that day, their revenue tripled. And it remained double to triple for the next 6 months. And that was, in my career, one of the most successful things I had ever done. But it wasn't from me knowing exactly what I need to do. We had tried other things, different creatives, different offers in the past before that, and they didn't all work out so well. But we tried something that seemed to match the customer's desires already of buying 2 of this product instead of 1. Lots of people started posting about it over social media. Their revenue was taking off. The business owner, back to the people who don't have egos, they were staying up late on calls with people from China, trying to get the right amount of inventory because we had just tripled their inventory sales velocity. And so they were freaking out in a good way, because that's a good problem to have. And they were freaking out to get everything done. Over the course of the next few months, we were just doing super well for them. But it wasn't from some special offer or thing that I knew beforehand that was just gonna really take off. I had no idea. I didn't know that this was gonna work. And the stuff I had tried in the past didn't work. So what's to say this one was going to? It was an experiment. It wasn't a solution. It was something that we were gonna try and we were gonna put forth into the world, and maybe it would work. And so I found that this is also very important, not just purely because it has something to do with trying something that succeeded really well. I've had plenty of other things that I've tried that have lost money, significant amounts of money, that didn't work, that were not nearly as successful. And those hurt, and that sucks. but sometimes it works. And so one of the deeper learnings from this that I've gotten is it's more about trying the thing. If it works or doesn't work, you now have that firsthand behavioral experience of I did X, I received XYZ back. And that is so valuable because as you go throughout your personal life, as you go throughout working in your business or working at your job, you can pull on those experiences. You can pull on those subconscious or conscious experiences that you've had in the past of, hey, I tried that before, that didn't work, or hey, that worked really well, I'm gonna try it again, or I'm gonna try it again in a different way. And what happens is it's a bias towards action. It's a bias towards behavior change because now you don't have to consult a book. You don't have to consult a YouTube video. You don't have to consult social media or whatever else it may be. You've got it up here and you now can run through more reps and get more feedback, which then enables you to do more things to try that will give you more feedback. And it's just this wonderful, increasing, never-ending, positive, sometimes negative feedback loop of I tried this, I messed around, and I found out what happened when I tried this. That's something that I'm learning is being able to make faster decisions and just trying stuff. And I'm being so deathly scared that everything I'm gonna do will or won't work before I've done the thing. It's about making an educated guess and going for it and then getting the response of what's gonna happen. Not figuring it all out beforehand because then I'll never do anything. I made another video about faster decision making. I'll put it up somewhere here or down in the description, but highly recommend going and check that out. Just something that I've slowly been learning over the past 6 months of just making faster decisions, and I think it's super helpful. One of the odd conclusions that I've brought from all of these lessons and so many other lessons that I've learned over the years is it's almost this idea of, yes, putting your ego aside, realizing what actually changes your behavior, trying different stuff, applying basic math to your life, trying to figure out what the problems actually are. All of that's good. But if I could conclude with something, if I could pull and extract the essence of all of these, it's this paradoxical idea of controlling everything that you can while knowing and being completely open-minded and okay with the fact that you can control nothing. That may not sound helpful or super positive, but it's very real. This idea that you should seek absolute competency with a beginner's mindset, knowing that you're just purely an observer in this chaotic thing that is life and in business. And so that's what I'll leave you with. It's something to chew on, something to think about, but it's a very valuable lesson I've learned and it has served me very well. So I hope you have a great rest of your day and I hope this helped.